bringing you the news and information you need from the people making a difference. This is Comcast Newsmakers from the Kansas City Public Library in downtown Kansas City. Here is your host, Lori Patterson.
And joining us on this edition of Newsmakers is Anne Metheny with the Hope House. And Anne, we were talking just a little bit about how these difficult economic times are affecting what you're seeing in domestic violence shelters. Can you talk with us just a little bit about that?
I can. You know, the economy, a bad economy does not cause domestic violence, but when the economy is bad, there is a correlation where domestic violence goes up. And we really think that that is about the stressors that are there in a relationship and where domestic violence is already existing, that those extra stressors can cause that violence to escalate. So what we're seeing is a higher demand for services, as well as those people who are seeking our services are really coming to us with a higher severity of injuries and of the abuse that has happened to them.
And can you give us an idea of numbers? Has the number of women coming into shelter, has it doubled since last year?
The numbers have gone up, and what we're seeing really is that a study was done, and in the state of Missouri, what we learned is that we have, for every 2 people that we were serving, 3 people were turned away for services. So the numbers are really staggering, and we're seeing that they're staying in shelter longer. So we're not necessarily seeing more people in shelter, but they're staying longer. So our bed nights have gone up. Our bed nights were up 33% last year. As the economy has been so bad, it's been difficult then for people to find the resources that they need in order to be able to get their goals met and get the things that they need in order to then move out of shelter and be on their own. Our outreach services, the demand has been through the roof with those, actually. Our legal program saw a 100% increase in people served. We saw an increase in the court advocacy program as well as our hospital program. Wow.
Now, there's also a pilot program that you would like to talk a little bit about. Tell us about that.
Well, we started, along with 2 other shelters in the Kansas City area, were part of a pilot project that was started by the Maryland Coalition Against Domestic Violence. There is a program called the Lethality Assessment Program, and that was done where research was done by Dr. Jacqueline Campbell to determine when a person in a domestic violence situation is at high risk for being killed. And there are certain indicators that if those are in place, then research has shown that that person is at high risk. So what they've done is created an 11-point questionnaire and have trained the police to use this questionnaire in domestic violence situations and to determine whether or not that victim is at high risk of being killed based on how she answers those questions. So we started that program. Hope House is working with Grandview, Raytown, and Lee Summit police departments and started it in June of '09 and are continuing to do that. And the numbers have been staggering. We were told when we started the project we could expect maybe 2 calls a week, and we're getting an average of 1 call a day with the people who are screening at being high for lethality. So what the police do in that situation is they do the questionnaire with her and then say, based on the way that you've responded to this questionnaire, research shows us that you're at high risk for being killed. What I would really like to do is hook you up with services. I would like to call the hotline from Hope House and have you talk with an advocate. It's up to her to decide whether or not she wants to talk to the hotline, but the majority of people, about 60% of the people who are responding high actually come into services. So they are responding, and what research is showing is that of the homicide victims for domestic violence, only 4% ever availed themselves to services. When services are offered, 60% decrease in the amount of re-assault is happening. So this program is actually saving lives.
That's great to hear. Thank you so much for joining us,
Thank
Anne.
you.
That's all the time that we have for this edition of Newsmakers. I'm Lori Patterson. Have a great day.
The preceding has been a presentation of Comcast Newsmakers.